Let me tell you a story I haven't shared with anyone, mostly because I stopped talking altogether, and you'll understand why. I didn't move into the house by choice. It was left to me in a will from an uncle I barely remembered. Apparently he'd vanished nearly 20 years ago. No goodbye, no explanation, just disappeared into the woods. The place was buried deep in a forest. You couldn't even find it on GPS. A slouching old cottage half swallowed by the hill it sat on. Pine trees leaned in like they were trying to listen. The first thing I noticed was the silence. Not peaceful silence, this was different. It was oppressive, heavy, no wind, no birds, just nothing. Like the world stopped existing the moment I stepped inside. I should have left. I didn't. That was my first mistake. That night I found a nest, not the kind birds make. This one was too perfect. Tightly woven twigs, bits of wire, strands of hair. Some of it was mine. Dead center in the hallway upstairs, under a window that never fully shut. Inside the nest was a tooth. Human. Still bloody. I threw it out, obviously. Thought maybe an animal dragged it in. But the next night, it was back. Slightly bigger, with 2 teeth this time. From then on, I stopped sleeping through the night. I'd wake up suddenly, like someone had clapped inches from my face. The room always pitch black. The silence somehow deeper, heavier. And the nest always closer. They started showing up everywhere. In the sink, in my shoes. One was under my bed sheets. I didn't see it, I felt it. It poked me when I laid down. That one had a thumbnail in it. I tried to leave, but my keys were gone. The car wouldn't start. When I called for help, all I heard on the other end was breathing. Fast, wet, like something crawling through a straw. I threw the phone away. I stopped talking completely, because something in that house didn't like voices. The walls started changing. They weren't yellow anymore. They were turning gray, soft. If you pressed your ear to them, you could hear movement, cracking, rearranging, like joints bending the wrong way. There's something behind the silence. You don't hear it, you feel it. A low pulse that lives in the floor, in the furniture, in your bones when you sit too long. It told me something once. Don't make noise, it's listening. I made the mistake of whispering, "Who?" It answered. Using my voice, the nests multiplied. Dozens. In the fridge, the toilet, inside my pillow. Each one had something new. A wet strand of unfamiliar hair. A fingernail. A tooth that wasn't mine. One had an eye, still intact. But here's the thing, I can still see out of both of mine. So whose was it? The silence didn't stay silent. It changed. First came the clicking, gentle like a clock underwater. Then the whispers, at first distant, then right in my ear. They started forming words, then rhymes. Skin to wall and nail to nest, what you give, it takes the rest. Over and over. I tried blocking the sounds, cotton, wax, anything, but they just burrowed deeper into my head, into my thoughts. Then I started hearing people I knew. My mom's voice. She died 7 years ago, but she told me to come downstairs. Said the stove was on, said my fingers weren't mine anymore and I should give them back. Then my own voice joined in. It laughed at me, mocked me. Said the walls weren't walls, they were lungs. And the house was a mouth that hadn't started chewing yet. I tried to scream, but the scream came out backwards. Now I hear things that aren't real. Rain on a sunny day, flies behind glass that doesn't exist, waltzes from a radio I smashed weeks ago, a baby crying in the fridge. I haven't spoken in I don't know how long, but I hear myself, all the time, singing lullabies, laughing from empty rooms. Even the nests have voices now, each one different. One sobs, one counts endlessly, one just screams when it loses track of numbers. They only stop when I pay attention. They feed off my focus, and I think that's what they're for. Tiny houses for discarded voices, for thoughts no one should ever hear. Last night the house started humming, a low note so deep it vibrated my teeth. It said, "Your head is too full, make room." So I did what it asked. I started cutting, just little slices, along the scalp, to let the voices out. They hiss when they leave. They thank me. One whispered, "Now we can stretch." There is no more silence, only layers of sound stacked on each other like insects, crawling through my mind. Every breath I take weaves another nest. I cough them up now. They're wet, warm, and they speak. I think the house is inside me now, and when I'm hollow enough, it'll speak through me, and someone else will hear it. I never used to believe in haunted houses. I figured most of the stories were just local legends or overactive imaginations. That changed after I moved into an old Victorian house on the edge of a town called Belgrave. Locals called it the Widow's Spine. Supposedly, the whole house had twisted over time, bent under the weight of grief. I thought it was just old wood, warped from decades of weather. But one part of the house always bothered me: the third floor. There wasn't anything explicitly wrong with it. No locks, no warning signs, just an old staircase you had to pull down from the ceiling. It looked like a tongue folding out of the roof with a rusted chain dangling like bait. I never went up. Not once, not for months. Just a feeling in my gut that told me not to. Then the scratching started. Every night. At exactly 3:12 a.m., I'd wake up a minute before it started. I don't know why. And then, 5 minutes of slow, rhythmic dragging. Not like an animal, not random. It sounded intentional. Circles. Always circles. Like fingernails being scraped into wood above my head. I tried sleeping with earplugs. I played white noise. Nothing helped. I'd still wake up. Then came the pacing. 2 steps, drag, 2 steps, drag. It wasn't loud, but it felt close. And every time I tried recording it, the audio would come back blank. Just silence. Eventually I broke. One night I pulled the chain. The stairs folded down. I grabbed my flashlight and climbed up. At the top was a hallway I didn't recognize from the floor plans. Narrow, dusty, with 3 identical doors. The first 2 rooms were empty. Dust, cobwebs, nothing else. The third room was different. It was larger, slanted ceiling, and a single window facing the woods. In the middle of the room was a rocking chair, and sitting in it was a woman. She wasn't moving. Her hair was long, white, and it spilled onto the floor like spilled paint. Her hands were blue. Her skin looked collapsed like wet paper. But she was breathing. Barely. I wanted to run, but my body wouldn't move. I was frozen. Then, without moving her mouth, she spoke. "You shouldn't have come up." That's all she said. My flashlight died. The room went completely black. I don't remember leaving. I just remember waking up the next morning in my bed. My feet were black with dust, like I'd walked through the attic barefoot. I tried to leave that day. Packed my car, started driving, but every road I took looped back to the same old iron gate. I couldn't get out of Belgrave. Since then, things have gotten worse. I started hearing her voice again, not from the attic next to me, in my room, sometimes whispering, sometimes humming. The worst part, I can never remember what she says, except once. One word stuck, burned into my memory. Soon. Time feels broken now. I lose hours, wake up in rooms I don't remember entering. I found a chair turned toward the corner of my bedroom one morning, just facing the wall. I never put it there. Then I found the photographs, not in a drawer, not in an album, hidden under the floorboards beneath my bed, wrapped in wax paper, stained with something dark. Dozens of them, all of me. Standing at the 3rd floor window, always at night, always staring out. In one, my mouth was open like I was screaming. In another, my hand was pressed to the glass. I have no memory of any of it. I sealed the 3rd floor shut, hammered the staircase into the ceiling, nailed it closed. But now the photos keep showing up in other places. On my pillow, inside my fridge, folded into the sleeve of a jacket I haven't worn in months. And now there's this urge. It doesn't speak in words, more like pressure in my head, like thoughts that aren't mine. It started small, moving furniture into strange shapes, turning mirrors toward the walls, pouring salt in a perfect circle around my bed. Then it got worse. I tore out the bathroom sink, thought something was behind the tiles. The pressure in my head told me there wasn't, just mildew and a little blood. My own, I think. I don't go outside anymore. The faces on the street blur when I look at them. Their mouths move, but no sound comes out, like a silent film. And now, I'm remembering things I've never lived. A girl crying in the walls, a man screaming in the basement, a woman falling down the stairs again and again on a loop. These memories play in my mind like old film reels. And when I look in the mirror now, I hesitate. Because sometimes, I don't recognize the face looking back. The smile doesn't feel like mine. The eyes blink out of sync, and something flickers just beneath the skin. I don't think I moved into this house. I think I've always been here, and whatever I am now is just what's left behind. few months ago, I rented a small cottage way out in the countryside. I needed to get away from people, from work, from the city. The listing called it a quiet Victorian retreat, secluded, full of charm. What it didn't mention was the smell. It hit me the moment I stepped inside. Musty, like wet fabric and expired perfume. It clung to the corners of every room, especially the hallway at the back, where the floorboards warped just enough to throw off your step. But the worst part of the house was the room at the very end of that hall. It wasn't locked, it wasn't even closed. But I never went in. Something about it just felt wrong. The wallpaper was hideous, pale yellow, peeling, and covered in these strange, twisted floral patterns. They looked like they'd been drawn by a trembling hand. The designs didn't repeat. They wound across the wall like veins, always shifting. I could have sworn the patterns changed when I wasn't looking. And at night, I started hearing sounds from that room. Not animals, not wind, something softer, like fingertips brushing the wall, like slow, steady breathing. I told myself it was nothing, just old insulation. Maybe mice in the walls. Then I started dreaming in yellow, every night the same color, sickly, like stained teeth or hospital lighting. In those dreams, the wallpaper would spread, crawling down the hallway and under my bedroom door, wrapping itself around my bed. In one dream, I was standing in that room, touching the wall, and when I did, it pulsed, like it was alive. A bulge rose in the paper, like a face pressing outward, and then a mouth appeared. It whispered my name. I woke up covered in flakes of yellow glue, my hands raw. I had scraped the wall above my bed down to the plaster, but I hadn't moved from the bed. I set up my phone to record myself sleeping. I didn't want to, but I needed to know what was happening. The next morning, I watched the footage. About 3 hours in, I sat up, slowly, calmly. I got out of bed, walked to the hallway, and went into the wallpaper room. 4 hours later, I came back, smiling. My mouth was moving, but there was no audio, just silence. But I could read my lips. I belong here now. I tore the wallpaper off the walls, tried to destroy it, but underneath, the plaster was scratched full of tiny names. Thousands of them. Every one of them written in my handwriting. I don't remember writing them, but I remember each name. And now, when I wake up at night, I sometimes hear a voice in the hallway, quietly whispering each one, like a list. And every night, I wait for mine. It's not just the names, there's scratching now, from under the floorboards, not rats, not bugs, something deliberate. I tried yelling at it, banging on the wood. It always stops when I look. But the second I turn away, it starts again. I tried leaving. I packed a bag, locked the front door behind me, and walked toward the road. But the trees had moved. I know how that sounds, but I swear they were closer, like the forest had shifted while I slept. No matter which way I turned, the cottage was still in front of me. I went back, not because I wanted to, because I had to. After that, I stopped filming myself. I didn't want to know what I was doing at night anymore. The last video I ever watched showed me standing in front of the wallpaper for hours. Not blinking, not moving, just mirroring. There was something in the wall beside me, a bulge, breathing, watching, and I was leaning back, mimicking its shape, like we were the same thing. Since then, time's been strange. I keep finding clothes I don't remember wearing, conversations I don't recall having. A second toothbrush appeared in the bathroom last week. Its bristles were wet. There's someone else here. Or maybe it's just me, split in two. The wallpaper room is different now. I didn't open the door, but it's always open. The walls aren't wallpaper anymore. They're flesh, pale, soft, layered, puckered with pores. When I touch them, they twitch. Once I think it moaned. There's a voice in my mouth when I sleep. It says things I don't understand, sometimes in rhyme, sometimes in a language I've never heard before. It keeps telling me there are 5 names left. I don't know whose they are, but my hand writes on its own now. The pen moves without me. Yesterday, I accidentally wrote my name. Today, I can't remember if I erased it. This morning, I woke up with a bandage on my wrist and stitches at the corners of my mouth. Not tight, just enough to keep me smiling. I didn't do it, but I'm not sure I didn't want to. I think the house isn't feeding on people. It's feeding on selves, on identity. And piece by piece, it's eating mine. When there's nothing left, I'll be part of the wall. Another pattern, another name, another piece of yellow. You stayed till the end. That means it saw you too. Some stories just echo, waiting for someone else to listen. If you want more, subscribe, but remember, once you hear the house, it hears you back.